Nigeria's Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index has increased to 55 index points, indicating expansion in the manufacturing sector for the 6th consecutive month. The PMI is an indicator of the economic health of the manufacturing sector, and the report shows 14 of the 16 subsectors reporting growth in the month under review. The index is based on 5 major indicators of new orders, inventory levels, production, supplier deliveries, and the employment environment. The Nigeria incentive-based risk-sharing system for agricultural lending, Nestle, has disbursed $7.4 million to more than 20,000 rice farmers for the planting season. The agency says this is part of the mandate to facilitate the flow of finance to the agriculture sector and help achieve the objectives of the Economic Recovery Growth Plan, ERPG. Nestle Chief Executive Officer Aliyu Abdulhamid says the disbursement is part of the $47.6 million support program for rice growers being implemented under the CBN Anchor Borrowers Program. Nestle is deploying a two-pronged strategy to ensure farmers do not only get access to finance, but are also supported to get the best yields so they can pay back their loans and still make profits. Now, the Nigerian government has released a total sum of 336 billion naira, that's about $900 million, for the implementation of capital projects contained in the budget. Minister of Finance Kemi Adeosun says the amount is for the first quarter, and out of that amount, the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing gets the highest allocation of 90 billion naira, about $200 million. Adeosun says the prioritization was made in accordance with the objectives of the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. The President of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria says the Made in Nigeria campaign has gained reasonable progress after the executive order on improved patronage and current build-up against smuggling activities in the economy. Business correspondent Tolulope Ogunjobi tells us that the man's president wants state and local government participation and also to key into the campaign.
Patronage of made in Nigerian products can help stabilize the economy, as Nigerian manufacturers have shown they can match the quality of imported goods if they get the opportunity. Which is why the president of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria is again reminding Nigerians why they need to change their appetite for imported products and appreciate locally made ones.
So when we say you should buy made in Nigeria products, we know you have to make a sacrifice. We want you to see that as a patriotic duty to help grow your economy. There are a number of goods that are produced in this country whose quality is much better than the quality of products that brought in from Asia. A typical example is the cable that you use in your houses, electric cable. On a number of occasions, builders have used Chinese cables and had to tear them out and replace them with Nigerian cables, simply because the quality of the cables they bring in from China is quite inferior compared to those that are made in this country.
Communication strategist Enable Shola Solako added her voice to the campaign, saying if Nigeria continues their patronage of everything foreign, they continue to strengthen foreign nations at the detriment of the Nigerian economy.
All of us feel the impact of all our wrong decisions before now as a nation. And it is clear to all of us that we cannot continue the way we have been going. And man is taking the initiative here because they feel the pinch in this area as the people feel the first impact of our wrong actions. But it's almost impossible for man to achieve anything that they set as a goal of this campaign if we don't have the media as stakeholders, not just partners, but as stakeholders in that vision.
MAN's president also has some recommendations for government.
Encourage state and local governments to enshrine patronage of made in Nigeria products in their procurement policies and processes. 3, sustain, monitor, enforce, and ensure that the 40% participation rate for MSMEs provided in the executive order is strictly adhered to. 4, create a sustainable platform through which the general public will be continuously educated on the need to jettison the current penchant for foreign goods and therefore patronize locally manufactured products.
There is a consensus among manufacturers and private sector heads that getting Nigerians to buy Nigerian isn't really hard. They say that an urgent review of the laws on smuggling, adulteration and counterfeiting will speed up the process. Tolulokpe Ogunjobi, TVC News, Lagos.
Former Deputy Governor of the CBN, Ernest Ebi, says fixing Nigeria's structural economic imbalance is key to sustaining the country's exit from recession. He was speaking at a lecture in Osun State where he said Nigeria must improve on institutional framework, ease of doing business and encourage strong private sector participation. The former governor, a CBN deputy governor, is worried that the federal government ERPG plan, that's the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, has no clear timeline.
What the country needs at this time to sustain this exit from recession, so we don't have a double dip, is a fundamental transformation of the economy that will address the structural economic imbalance, improve on institutional framework, ease of doing business, infrastructure, and strong private sector participation. On this, I share the federal government's cautious optimism on the exit from recession and the resolve to ensure a sustainable economic development of the country through the faithful implementation of economic recovery and growth plan.
We need to be disciplined as a nation. We need to control our tastes. We need to be focused and to go the pathway of recovery. And the pathway of recovery is self-discipline. It is planning. We're learning that we actually planned, but it came a little late. So I'm to tell you that Nigeria needs to wake up.
All right, after the break, I will come back to our focus on the disbursement for the capital project. Recently, talking about 336 billion naira released by the government to fund such projects. That's after the break. Just stay with us. You're watching Business Nigeria. Back to our lead story on the release of a total sum of 900 million. That's about $900 million for the implementation of capital projects contained in the budget. And to talk more about that is economist Aliyu Audu. He joins me from our Abuja studios. Many thanks for your time, Mr. Audu. Yes, so much attention is now given to the development of capital projects in Abuja. Earlier, we saw the Sukuk bond, which was rolled out and which was oversubscribed at about 6%. Now we have this disbursement by the government. Obviously, there is no better time for this.
Yeah, it's true. We need a lot of infrastructural development. We're an emerging market, and if we are to go by the vision, by the government Vision 2020 to be the top 20 economy in about 3 years from now, that's 2020, then there's a lot that needs to be done. So the various investment in infrastructure is welcomed, because Nigerian infrastructure is decaying, and not a lot of attention is paid to infrastructure. So this current investment infrastructure is encouraged, and it will go a very long way to helping the economy.
Yes, about $940 million was disbursed, and the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, says the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing gets the top priority And just, if I would say, a paltry sum of 90 billion naira was given to that sector. And looking at the three major sectors, is that really enough to even start the works?
Oh, very good question. You see, we have an infrastructural deficit in this country of about 20% of GDP if we are to emerge as the top 20 economy. That is the target of Nigeria currently. Now, what is 20% of our GDP? Our GDP is 405 billion. 20% of that is about 80 billion, which translates to 28 trillion in 3 years. So 90 billion to the Ministry of Works, I think is small. It's not up to the target to get us to where we need to get to if we are to emerge as the top 20 economy in the world. So we're looking at railway. Abuja, most especially, is a growing population. In the 1970s, most of the population lived in rural areas. Now, in current times, over 70% of Nigerian population is living in the urban areas, so there's urbanization. And as such, there's a lot of pressure on infrastructure. So a lot of infrastructure is demanded right now. And what we should be looking at is things like railway, power, roads. So the infrastructure we are having currently, there's a lot of strain on it. So 90 billion is nowhere near where we have to be, or even the whole amount that has been released. For capital projects alone for 2017, there is 2.36 trillion allocated for capital projects. And, it's about 336 billion being released. So, and that's due to the late passage of the budget. So this is small compared to the target we are having for Nigeria to be among the 2020 economy, and that's where we should be looking at.
Yes, 90 billion is too small for, if we are going to be talking about the ease of doing business, the ease of doing business initiative by the government. And of course, we know that adequate infrastructure will aid ease of doing business. Let me get your view on the ease of doing business initiative of the government.
Well, one of the ingredients that contributes to doing business is good infrastructure. When I talk about good infrastructure, we're talking about a very good railway system, we're talking about good roads, and we're talking about power. When the cost of doing business is very high, which means, there's problem with infrastructure, notably power, you notice that discourages investment and industrialization. And as you can see, we're crying about unemployment. So if the infrastructure is bad, it has a direct link with industrialization and employment. So infrastructure is a very important facet of the economy, and it connects other facets of the economy. So a lot of investment, that's one of the greatest problems we have. Because if we have good infrastructure, I'm sure that will bring in a lot of investment, and that will lead to economic growth as well as promoting, bringing about employment. So we need to pay a lot of attention to infrastructure. Let's look at the railway system, for example. We do not have a good railway system, and that is one of the major important transportation, the cheapest, safest, and important means of transportation.
All right.
As you can see, if we have a very good railway system, that will reduce the pressure on road, and a lot of businesses and transportation can take place using the rail system. So that aspect is lacking in the economy, and a lot of attention has to be paid to it.
All right.
Obviously, there's been situations of loans and all that been taken to set up a railway system, but still yet we only have one or two existing railway systems. So a lot of attention has to be paid to that. A lot of investment has to be paid into the railway system. That is non-existent in Nigeria presently. All
right, we'll have to leave it at that. Economist Aliyu Audu, thank you for your time on Business Nigeria. The drive by the Nigerian government to diversify the economy through the mining sector is achieving significant progress. Sokoto State Commissioner for Solid Minerals, Barrister Mohammed Bello, stated this while speaking to TVC News. According to him, the present administration has done much in bringing sanity to that sector, which has increased its viability and prospects in boosting the economy.
The commitment of the present administration to diversify the nation's economy is beginning to yield fruit in the mining sector. Sokoto State is one of the states of the Federation with the largest deposit of mineral resources and renewed synergy between the federal, state and local government areas. Using the instrumentality of Mineral Resources and Environmental Management Committee has further brightened the prospects of the sector in the state.
The minister and of course his team has done marvelously well, and they are continuing to do a very good job there. We appreciate the zeal, the commitment, and of course the engagement, the synergy the minister and the ministry is building between the states and the federal ministry to ensure that this area is well harnessed.
The commissioner believes that involving states in the issuance of mining consents will better assist in proper profiling of real miners operating in the country. Meanwhile, the Sokoto State government's arrangement to bring together informal miners in order to facilitate the accessibility of funds available for development of the sector has almost been concluded.
Before that consent is given, the ministry should be contacted. Who is coming to our land? What is he going to do? And the due diligence. And then, of course, we assess the profile of the person who is that is the licensee.
The recent revelation by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation that it will soon begin oil exploration in the Sokoto Basin comes as cheering news to the state government, who believes it will give the state an added advantage.
The state government has been able to actually commit a lot of resources in identifying these resources, the solid mineral and hydrocarbon.
As it is today, I think the current administration has taken a very, very important decision of paying proper attention to prospecting hydrocarbon at the frontier levels.
The nation has largely depended on oil revenue for too long, but the present administration has resolved to lead the nation on the path of diversifying the economy towards agriculture and mining sector.
All right, it's time to cross over to the Nigerian stock market, where Effiong is standing by to give us updates. Hello, Effiong.
Hello, Yemisi. Good afternoon.
Yes,
the market ended in the positive territory, just like we had, predicted for 2 days now, and it closed at 0.03%. That was the all-share index that actually measures price movements on the trading floor. Top gainers this afternoon were C&I Leasing Company. I had told you that company has rebranded and focused for the last quarter of the year. Then Sterling Bank also was up by 5% and Transcorp 4.6%. Those that left the trading floor with lower value included AG Leventis down 4.8%, USC Property 4.5%, and Len Africa. Len Africa is the former book company that you used to know as Longman. It closed downward at 3.9%. Away from the closing of the markets, I have here in the studio the Executive Director, Market Operations and Technology, Mr. Ade Bajomo. He has a lot to tell investors and capital market operators. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Let me let the cat out of the bag. That we are talking about the second data center workshop that is being organized for market operators. Tell me all of that and what you think will implique for the market.
Yes, on the 4th of October, we're going to have the second market data workshop. This is the second in West Africa. I think we're the first in West Africa to do this, and we felt it's extremely important as we build the market and investors to actually invest based on information and not based on, if you like, their gut feel or hearsay or whatever else as a word of it. So market data actually gives you information about what's going on in the market. And you have various categories of market data. So you have real-time data, which comes directly from the floor of the exchange as the market is trading. So people buy and sell securities. And as they buy and sell, you can transmit real-time data, and investors can see that data of what people want to buy, what people want to sell, the volume on offer, on bid and ask, as a way really we call it, buy and sell, and all those kind of information are extremely important for investors to determine the fair price of a security and then make good investment decisions, whether to buy or indeed to sell. Prior to, people will use all sorts of information. Here, even up to 10 years ago, people would rely on their imam on a Friday or their pastor on a Sunday to predict the security for them. Market data allows you or gives you better information to do this in a more rational manner.
In the market, we have so many kinds of operators. So who are you expecting to actually benefit and attend this one?
It's the entire spectrum of the market that we expect to benefit from this, really. And it goes all the way from retail investors to institutional investors to even fintech companies as well. So if you look at the lineup for the day, we will have Mr. Biz Makriwani, who's going to give the keynote address, and that's going to talk a lot about investing and market data being the bedrock of wealth creation. Okay. We have the Securities and Exchange DG, Mr. Monir Guazo. We have the DG of the Debt Management Office as well, giving different perspectives of it. But we're going to have a number of information panels or informative panels, which is going to give people insights. And those panels will comprise of asset managers, pension companies, proven names who have done this over and over again in terms of guiding investors across all the brand on how to make sound investment decisions.
Okay, but you see, technology seems to be something that we always want to buy from outside of the shores of Nigeria. What about indigenous technology? To what extent do you tap, into market operations?
That is a very good question. And indeed, we have a lot of emphasis on the future. Yeah, so we're going to talk about the present, and indeed the future. And the future to us really is a lot about financial inclusion, is a lot about getting that market data and spreading it out to a wider audience as well. So one of our major sponsors, the platinum sponsor for the event, is Thomson Reuters. And they're bringing in a couple of experts on fintech. So those people who are very excited about plugging in and developing solutions that take the market data and actually build products that inform investors on making better decisions, those people should really be on that on the event as well, because it's been extremely beneficial for the entire market.
Thank you very much. Let's leave it there. It's nice for you to talk to us, TVC News.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Ade Bajomo, Executive Director of Market Operations and Technology at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. He's been our guest at this hour. I had told you that the market this afternoon ended in green, 0.03%. I send the signal back to you, Yemisi.
Thank you, Ekop, and it's good to know that the market closed on a positive note. Well, crude oil prices dropped marginally at the international market Friday as demand for diesel slows down bull market. At London market, the Brent crude trades at $57 a barrel, and the OPEC basket brand price drops to $55 per barrel. And that's Business Nigeria. Thank you for watching. I am Yemisi Lanredo. I'll leave you with the figures of the exchange rate as it stands at the moment.